Welcome into the SorareData Strategy Show. I'm Andrew Laird. You can find me as Lairdinho on Sorare, joined, as always, by Sean Newsham, PSU fans too. Sean, we took last week off, and I had somebody reply to the tweet that we were talking today. And they were like, it's been forever. And really, it's like one business day later for us, since we usually were going on Fridays. And instead, it's Monday.
True.
And here we are. And yet people are like, oh, it's been forever. Has it felt like forever for you?
Yeah, a little bit, but I worked so much this week and I was exhausted. Like I was dead by Sunday. Like Sunday came and I was ready for a nap. I think the reason was this the first time where you did not have either show in 1 week?
It might have been. I can't remember the last time I took off. I definitely took off at some point some time ago.
You went to France, but when you went to France, I think the one show was still done like before you left. Like I think you were like gone like a Wednesday through like a Sunday, and so like there was still your the one show was still done and then you were gone.
I went Monday to Friday, but maybe I did. Yeah, maybe we did it before. I don't know.
Yeah,
I will admit that it does feel like a while, even though you and I are only 2 days late and it's Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah, but definitely.
Whatever it is, thank you to everybody who has joined us instead of choosing to watch Liverpool Crystal Palace, which is something now. Crystal Palace just went ahead. Wilfried Zaha, who I cannot believe is still playing for Crystal Palace.
Very true.
We're also interrupting a João Felix masterclass here, which is a long time coming and hopefully is the sign of many things to come for the entire season. But thank you, everybody who has joined us live. Mike Basson said he was the first in the comments, but he was here just to tell us he wasn't going to be here because he's watching the Liverpool game, which frankly, I think watching on mute and actually listening to us is really the play to go.
True. I mean, to be fair, you should just turn the Liverpool game off. I have it on my third monitor, and that goal was absolutely atrocious by Nathan Phillips because he did not hold the line at the midfield, and it was literally just terrible. It was
you can get in trouble with that, as shown here. But yeah, Tug is here, which is a little precursor for later. Bastian's here. Thank you for joining us. Hatanas Zarki is here. Trading partner Bob Flynn. What is up, guys? Surfula, excuse me. So we're Irish. Misaki. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. If you guys could just quickly hit the like button, that's always appreciated on these videos and all videos that you watch of people doing Sorare content. It's weird how much those things matter. And so whether you're watching us or Quinny or Nellis or Josh and Techers or Harry, whoever you're watching, please just hit the like button because it helps all of those guys continue to do what they're doing. There's some really good stuff out there. We're happy to be part of it, and the likes, for some reason, help that. So today's topic is one that is a little different than what we're doing with gallery reviews, even though, admittedly, we haven't done those in a while. But this idea came from Gator Guy 231, and I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. I will embarrass either him or you right away by you saying you thought this was a terrible idea. We're going to do it anyway. There is a reason. There was a reason why you said it was terrible, and I think we should explain why gallery reviews are a little easier for us than lineup reviews. If you want to go into that, Sean.
So lineup reviews, the reason why I think it is a bad idea is because one, if it's done properly, it's going to be like us calling people morons, which we know some people take offense to being called morons, or realistically, I guess some people just take offense to other people being called morons. So like in general, it's not a good sign because like that's literally the idea of what a lineup review would be. It would be like, this is a mistake, this is stupid,
right.
This is blah, blah, blah. Then two, the issue is like, I don't know the ins and outs of most people's galleries. There's a few people I'm very familiar with their gallery. Like, I'm pretty familiar with your gallery. So like I can give input to you, like when you play Paulo Diaz in D3 and he never plays, like I can comment on that. But like, I don't know everyone's decisions that they're making on a given weekend. So like if they do something, I might not have an idea that like that was their best option or they had another option. So I'm just sitting there without sort of understanding what the decisions and the process were in that situation. So like that's why I think lineup reviews are difficult unless you're talking about yourself and your own lineups. Because I can tell you what my thought process was on stuff. And I actually had some interesting decisions last weekend that we can talk about when we get there. So like I know mine. I just like if we're talking about other people, it's like we're gonna bring up Tuggy today, and Tuggy already told me I can call him a moron. And tell him he's an idiot. But the problem is, like, I don't know all the decisions Tuggy had in front of him when he was doing it, because, like, the thing is so many decisions are based on, hey, this guy has a nagging ankle injury. Well, like, I don't know if so-and-so has a nagging ankle injury that I literally don't look at because I don't have him or anyone on that team. So that part of things make things a little bit difficult from that perspective.
Yeah, I think that's kind of clear. Like when we look at a gallery, we see exactly which cards are there, and we can say, "Hey, that card may not fit your what else you're doing," or these are the cards that you should be interested in if you want to progress to Rare Pro, or if you're going from limited to rare. Like those are things that we can do. But you're right. Like we all know our own galleries really well. So you're like, "Oh, how come you didn't play that guy?" And it's like, well, yeah, like you said, he's got a nagging ankle injury. I didn't want to take the risk. And so it's difficult for us to do lineup reviews without knowing everything about that person's lineups. Now, Metal Gear brought up how lineup reviews are going to be so results oriented. And we want to stay away from that. Like it's very easy to be like, oh yeah, you should have just played the guy who scored 90 in this lineup instead of the one who scored 10. Like that's not what we're doing. Obviously, I think Sean and I are in agreement that scoring the more points is better than scoring fewer points. And so, yes, if there was a 1v1 and you chose the guy who scored 10 and not 90, then, it's easy for us to say you should play the 90 guy. But those are decisions that's information you don't have when you're making the lineups, obviously, or else we just play the highest scoring lineups. But I wanted to not only get into kind of the lineup process, because we've talked about like what contests we prioritize each week and why that's not the same all the time, and how we kind of, I don't want to say we like cringe. We cringe a little bit when people like make a team and they're like, oh, this is going to be my champion Europe team. And it's like, well, playing those 5 guys every single week and only those 5 probably is not going to work all the time.
True.
So at least for most galleries, obviously.
I will also say, actually, there's one thing that you have seen, but you might not know about it. Gator Guy actually knows about it. I'm not gonna say what it was or who it is, but there's one move that has made me cringe like so bad the last 2 weeks that I've seen someone post and like talk about. And I saw it and I was just like, Keith, Gator Guy called it out to me last week, and I saw it. I was like, ooh. And then I saw it again yesterday or today. I forget what it was. The person was like, I did this. And I'm like, but I'm not going to talk about that because like, that's the thing is like I can't comment on that without being like, this is really stupid. So like, I just am not going to.
Was it actually something stupid?
Yes, it was absolutely moronic. Which you will agree with, and you have seen it maybe, but you were out of town. So maybe you didn't see it, but I don't want to do it in general.
Right. We're not. So that's the other thing that we were having this problem with lineup reviews is a lot of it comes to be like, oh, look at this person and how bad they are at making lineups. And we really want to stay away from that because, again, we don't know all the situations for everybody who's making lineups. And while I think there is interest in people having us do that, I just don't think it's our place to do that. So we're not going to. The chat is very interested in what this is, though, Sean. So you might have to drop some hints so people can figure it out.
That's unfortunate. I'm not gonna go into details. I'm confident. I'll message you what it was, and you can tell me if you agree with my comments about it, and see.
All right, we'll get to that.
I just sent you the message, and you can look at it and be like, yeah or no.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
We won't talk about that one. You're right.
Exactly. So
I actually think we'll get to that. I actually think that's something that we will discuss because I think we'll talk about that possibility. But anyway, when you make your lineups, so like one of the first things I wanted to talk about was both like how we think you can't have like this is my Challenger Europe Rare Pro lineup, because every week is different, and sometimes one of those players doesn't have a good matchup, and you're basically just like tanking the entire lineup if you force them in every week. And so that's something we've talked about anyway already. Like every week is different. You want to maximize the lineups that you can make each week, and those are different lineups every week. That being said, are there any player or cards that you have that you're like, I'm always playing this card here? And if so, like what cards are those?
No, at this point, the answer is no. The only card that is close to that, and I'm not including Division 1s because Division 1 is sort of done differently. The only card right now that I'm like pretty confident I will play in a certain spot is Gil Super Rare, is generally in Gas 3 right now. And the reason is so like people, again, we talked about people hating on the hero Carlos Gil before, and it's a situation where his AA has been fine. It was just a matter of he needs that one decisive. Like this weekend, if he doesn't have a BCM, he has 100 by doing not tons during that game, honestly. It was just, he was productive. So like the reason that I'm not worried about Gil is that when he does, like, yeah, like maybe I'm not going to get 100 every week, but I still think he's getting you 80 plus like 50% of the time, which if he gets me 80 plus at a 50% clip, that's pretty damn good overall.
Did you see that he became a defensive monster this weekend as well?
He actually probably could have had another tackle. There was another tackle in there that I thought maybe he could have got given. Actually, no. So the funny thing, the tackle he was given, I don't think he should have got a tackle for. There was another play in the game that he should have got the tackle for that he did not get a tackle for.
Okay.
So it all works out in the end with the Opta score.
Yeah, two big chances missed.
Yeah, and
still finished in 93.
The one was egregious. The one was he walked around the goalie and had an open net and put it in the side of the net. He didn't even flub the shot. The shot wasn't even missed. It's just like he just missed the net.
Yeah.
So that was
unfortunate. But that isn't that kind of a relatively new development? Because I thought you were always playing the Carlos Hill Rare in Rare Pro.
I was, but in the now part of the season, I have elite players that are rares. Whereas so like I have elite rares and I don't have like elite super rares that realistically make sense with them.
Yeah.
So I have to play. If I want to play these big dogs, which we'll talk about when we go to lineups. If I want to play these big dogs, then I need to play a super rare mid and a super rare defender. Not a super rare mid. I have to play a super rare mid and a super rare defender. So if I'm playing a super rare mid and a super rare defender, it basically means I have to play Gil super rare there. I could play the Lord Bonnekin, but he is currently on the shit list for this weekend. So it realistically ends up being Gil because nobody's upside is realistically as close to Gil in my gallery.
Right. Okay, that's fair. So I'm the same way with a rare Carlos Hill. Like that's basically the best. That's probably the best card I have from an SO5 perspective. And so like it takes, and I don't always play him in All-Star Rare Pro. Like there are a few situations like in recent weeks where I haven't. I've played him in like America Rare Pro. I can't imagine I actually played him in All-Star Rare recently, but maybe it was a midweek. Even that.
Someone actually asked the question, Surface, who's not here because he is on vacation, I believe, mentioned like a few weeks ago, is like, are you guys like done playing Gil in like Gas 3 or like America 3 and like prioritize him? My answer was no. Like I obviously was like, no, I'm not gonna do that. And I think actually Surface did, and he like ran him in like America 4 or something. But like this is why. Like
he has a gallery to do that though.
What?
He has a gallery that
he does. Yeah, he 100% has a better gallery. Like he's probably playing. He has like a Kimmich. Like I don't have a Kimmich.
Right.
He has cards like that are just like alpha cards that I don't have that can be in those spots. So like for me, the only guy that really comes into that like area is Gil. So like it basically forces my hand. Defenders I've talked about. I think defenders where you can like differentiate because like if everyone runs all these same defenders, like whoever they may be, right? Defenders are hit and miss. Like in certain situations, if a defender has a very favorable matchup, can put up a monster score. Whereas obviously, like some people are playing like Temic or Timber, Blend, like different guys like that, which are great. But if you get a right guy in a right matchup, they can really produce. So like I have a lot of super rares that pair with goalies, some that don't pair with goalies, and I can sort of just sit there and be like, all right, this is by far the best matchup or spot of the weekend. And honestly, like my defenders are not the strongest, so sometimes I might have to play someone. Like when we get to lineups, you're gonna be like, I don't think you know who I played in Gas 3, do you?
No.
Yeah, so like you're gonna be like, this is who you played in Gas 3, but it was, and that just like I thought that his matchup was super favorable this weekend, and he was one of the better defender options I had.
It does feel like because there are more like alpha midfielder and forward cards that you can play around with defender matchups much more, and those cards tend to be cheaper. Like I was thinking, do you think there's a better midfielder card that's other than Carlos Seal that's not Joshua Kimmich?
No, that's what, like the forwards and the mids, you just know who is going to smash a big game in a solid part of the portion of the time. It's like Kimmich, Gill, there's a couple other mids. Then it's like Neymar, Tadic, Mbappe, Messi. And it's like you know, like these are the guys that, hey, they're gonna smash like a significant portion of the time. Mids, it's like, all right, hey, it's Kimmich, De Bruyne could be one.
There's so few De Bruyne cards though that like it's tough to.
Yeah, you like really can't even include him because there just aren't that many cards. Like and Hakan, so like Hakan, I think definitely has the upside to smash that we're talking about. The issue is his down games are probably quite a bit worse than some other guys. Like when Gill has a down game, he's typically getting me like 50, 55. Hakan has a bad game, he puts up like 40 and gets up at 60 minutes. So like he's someone, but like like you look like this is a guy that has a massive AA, right? So like he's definitely someone that makes sense. The problem is like those down games are way worse than Carlos Gill's down games.
Yeah.
And it's not and like his up games are like great, but like Carlos Gill's up games are just as good, if not better. And Gill probably hits him more frequently.
It's wild to see that there are only 16 De Bruyne limiteds.
It is. It's pretty crazy. So Gary just mentioned if Claudinho gets a card. Yeah, if Claudinho got a card, his midfield card would be really, really strong. It would probably be one of those options. Like, so yeah, speaking of like, that's a great discussion point for like this weekend. So I know already, just because I did like a quick look yesterday, that Zenit plays
Torpedo
this weekend. Well, Torpedo is not the best, and Torpedo is probably going to get smashed by Zenit. So like all of a sudden, like this weekend, right? This weekend only, not like every weekend, but like Malcolm is probably just as good, if not better, than Neymar this weekend. So like you could play those guys in like a major priority lineup because of the matchup they play. Now that said, like most people don't, even if they have a good matchup, aren't that good. But like this matchup super favorable. Malcolm's a guy that has massive upside, so he can be used. But part of the thing is too, though, for me is sometimes you have to do different things that make sense within your gallery. And so like you might play Malcolm in your Gas 3, or you might play Malcolm in your champ or your Challenger 3, or maybe you play him in a different contest.
Yeah, no, that's man, I hate like knowing that Zenit's just going to kill everyone this weekend already.
It's a great matchup. Zenit has a great matchup. Like a lot of guys are just going to absolutely smash.
Yay.
So we just had Sorare Josh just mentioned about Davidson in the Chinese league. And if you look at Davidson, he absolutely smacks the Chinese league. The issue with me is the Chinese league is like very difficult to know exactly what's going on at all times in the Chinese league. So like, is it a great card to have? Yes. Like, am I going to go out and buy that card for like an ETH? No, I just am not going to trust it. I just don't know exactly what's going to happen. But yeah, like if you look at his scores, like his scores are pretty incredible right now. If you play him in a lineup, like you typically are going to have a guy that plays just as good as Tadic, Neymar, Messi, and those guys. So like it's a great card. The issue is obviously you see he doesn't get those good scores as frequently as they get.
I definitely lost a podium because of a late Wuhan Three Towns match, and I think it was
I remember that.
It was this one when they beat Wuhan FC. The old Wuhan Derby just ended me. But yeah, I didn't. God, that's a lot of goals they score. Do they have like any other cards? Well, I know they have what is
Maybe they
a
had
Dale
Anderson Lopez, and Anderson
Daleson
Lopez
or
was really good when he was there too. Yeah, Promise is smashing the Russian league too. There's some guys are definitely smashing the Russian league because some of these teams are just way better than some of these other teams, unfortunately.
Yeah,
So
it's basically all the ones that kept their foreigners are just
all
crushing.
all the teams that like have their foreigners still are like super strong, which unfortunately is like not Torpedo.
Right. So you said that All-Star Rare Pro is usually your top priority lineup of the week. It's not always, but what are some of the ones that have gotten ahead of All-Star Rare Pro recently that you were like, I actually have to put my best cards here?
So this is how I go through my lineups. I set my limited junk first, and it's junk because it's not very good most of the time. So like I will go through all my limiteds, set my limiteds, unless there's like the unique kickoff or something where you can play limiteds there, then I will do things a little bit differently. But so like current setup for me is, let me pull up this weekend on Sorare so I can have a look at it. So I set my limiteds first. That's how I go about my limiteds. That's not a good way to look at things. So I go there, set my limited lineups. Then I set U23 3, and then I set gas 3. Like I sort of set them simultaneously. Like if I know I need to do something there, I'll set that. Then I set Challenger 3. Then I set Champ 3, but like my Champ 3 is kind of is what it is most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
We can talk about that when we
somebody brought up stacks earlier, and so
so like I will run stacks sort of in certain situations if I can, and then I run my D1s. Like my D1s sort of set themselves for the most part, and then I go through my like D2s and D4s. It doesn't really matter because of where it is, and then so after I set my like D3s, I've been setting my underdog rare. And then actually, I guess this gives away my secret that we discussed a couple weeks ago. But so my priority currently has been All-Star Rare Pro, U23 Rare Pro, and Legends Rare Pro. That's been my priority. Like Legends gets my next best cards after those two areas. Then it goes to Challenger, Champ, Rare Pro. Then it goes to Underdog Rare. Then it goes to the usually the D2s. Like I'll sometimes like I'll see if I have a good specialist super rare, because if I have a good specialist super rare, I will run that and worry about it there, because if my line's good enough, I'll justify it. Like if I have a goalie that's in a decent matchups, the U40, I will typically make a pretty good lineup in the specialist super rare.
Yep.
So then I go through my D2s, then I go through my D4s, then I go to specialist rare. But the thing is so for specialist rare, I've had like question marks whether or not Insigne or Bernardeschi are going to rotate. And they also work perfectly there because one of them's an over 60, one of them's a U40. So it's like the perfect combination. So like I don't prioritize it at all because like I don't care. But I've been playing Bernardeschi and Insigne there like each slate for like the last 3 weeks because it just makes sense. But like I literally, like I don't think specialist rare should be above like almost any contest for you to prioritize right now. And I know
it's pretty bad.
Yeah,
reward wise, it's bad.
So bad. You have the winner maybe gets a card worth an ETH. Maybe.
Yeah.
There's no other contest on the platform I can like maybe get a card worth an ETH that is not limited. Like every other thing I can win at least a valuable card. Now that said, you can obviously win like a tier 2 super rare, and some of those are okay. But like you literally have no chance to win anything valuable, and it's just not worth that. Now, that said, I have a lot of rares. So because I have a lot of rares, my lineup typically ends up being really, really strong because it just happens to be really, really strong. But it's not out of me actually prioritizing it. It's more so out of I just have a lot of cards. And so therefore my like 100th rare is typically pretty good compared to what other people might have as that option.
Sure.
And especially because like you're not really playing like in other lineups, I'm not really playing like, I'm definitely not playing U40 guys. Like you're not playing U40 guys typically in other lineups most of the time, unless it's a special case like Trezor. And then like how many guys in like the 50 to 55 range are you really playing? Not many typically. So yeah, that's become just sort of what it is for me. But we can go through. So like all-star rare.
Before you keep going there, I wanted to at least talk about the specialist thing for a second, because who brought this? Oh, Niftio brought it up in a Discord that we're in today. And we were talking about how like specialist rare rewards, and you just mentioned it, are like pretty poor when compared to the top rewards basically everywhere else.
Everywhere. Like even all the special, it is so far behind every other special. It's not even close.
Yeah, and like that's the weird thing, is that like specialist limited allows you to win like star rares.
Yeah.
And specialist rare top line is tier 1 super rare, and they're usually like the bottom of whatever the tier 1 list is.
The pool's bad. The pool's
it's really bad. And like you're almost better off winning the tier 2 super rare, because it might be someone who's like actually usable, as opposed to like somebody who's like price native spike to make them a tier 1.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's just it's weird. Like specialist rare is the worst weekly.
Yes.
Like straight up.
By a significant amount.
Right. And so it's also kind of the toughest, because like you obviously need the sub 40 rares, and maybe you have those, but it's just like, I don't know. That's the tough one to prioritize for me. But like specialist,
I have the sub 40 guys. My issue is like, I'm not putting Carlos Gil in specialist rare. Just not doing that.
Yeah. So what's weird is that like you can make the argument that like the Sorare managers with bigger galleries aren't prioritizing specialist rare, so like it might be easier to win. But you're still like, you need to use really good cards in there to win not the best rewards. Like you're probably better off putting those great cards elsewhere.
Yeah. I mean, you'll see my lineup. Like my lineup is this being like the 30th priority lineup. And we'll see when we get to that, my cards that are in it. Like my cards are very good that are in it. It's a very good lineup. And I actually I had a pretty good chance at winning until yesterday. Yesterday was a disaster all around. But we'll see my lineup when we get there eventually. Like it just doesn't, it's just good. Like my lineup is so good. And I've seen other people put in like elite level cards in there.
It just feels like this is how I kind of try to justify it. It feels like the other specialist, or the other special weeklies, meaning underdog and specialist and all the other scarcities, those may be worth buying a card for, like to get another lineup in, and specialist rare is not. Like if you have the cards, great. I probably wouldn't like burn my Carlos Heel rare there, and he's obviously never going to be. So the weird thing is that underdog rare is actually really good.
Underdog rare is very good.
And underdog limited is like okay compared to specialist. Like they basically just like flipped. So I don't know.
And so you talked about what Niftio said in the one chat we were in today, and I'm going to follow up with what he also said, is that the specialist rare actually takes quite a bit of skill and research.
Yeah, for sure.
To figure out what makes the most sense. Like way more skill and research go into the specialist than goes into the underdog. So in my opinion, like it should be prioritized above the underdog, because you actually have to think about it, and you can't just plop in really great cards. You're limited to, like, I know you can't do that in underdog too, but like I can plop in my best 50 guys and play them and call it a day and be like, this is a great lineup. Whereas like you can't do that in the specialist. You have to actually like pick and choose like what makes the most sense. So 100% agree with him that it just doesn't make sense the way that it's ran.
Agreed. So I'm trying to scroll back here to see who brought up the stack comment. I apologize, because we're just gonna, I'm not gonna be able to find it. But somebody brought it up, stacks. I have your Champion Europe Rare Pro interstack here, mostly. How often do you break this stack up?
I was planning on breaking it up a lot this year, but I'm now reassessing my situation while things are going on and how dumb I think Champ Europe is currently. So my most elite cards that are not like Neymar and Messi, who I brought in recently, is definitely Carlos Gil, and typically a different defender. I've actually looked at this weekend. There's a realistic shot this weekend that I run Handanovic and Skriniar in Gas 3 with Messi and um,
Neymar.
Neymar. And the reason is because like I'm looking at Champ Europe and like I don't know, let me see what Champ Europe Rare Pro you need right now to get a prize, because
It's like 750 points.
it's like an absurd amount of points. And like I'm not saying you don't need a good amount of points in yeah, you can look it up. Yeah, I'm not saying you don't need a good amount of points in All-Star Rare Pro also, but like so Champion Europe Rare Pro to get a tier 2 right now, I need 407 points to get a tier 2. And the Liverpool game is not over, and Liverpool is in the middle of another bed shitting. So like, how realistic is that? Also, like Messi wasn't good. Quite a few guys on Bayern were not good. Mbappe was just decent. Like they still put up 65, but like that's the problem. Is like they put up 65 and it's a disaster for them.
Yeah.
So like, I just don't know if I can get the most value out of playing my guys there. I would rather play them with the most elite level cards. So, like in comparison, All-Star Rare Pro, you need to get a tier 1, you need less points slightly than what you need to get a tier 2 in Champ Europe Rare Pro. So, like I put up 444 and I'm getting a high-end tier 1 in gas. And if I were to have entered that in Champ Europe, I could not have entered in Champ Europe because I have Gil in there. And then also, like, you needed to get to a high level tier 1, you basically need like 450 points. So I would have been a higher end tier 1 there too. So it actually would have been about the same. It's more so to me, like, I want to play my elite cards together. I want to make the best possible lines I can make, and the best possible lines I can make right now are in global. Whereas if I could get to the point where I could make them in Champ Europe, I will. I just, as of right now, the best lines I can make include Carlos Gil.
I realize I'm asking this as you did it here, although let me, before I ask that question, because I was going to say, like, the problem that I tend to have is there, like, if one of my best cards for the game week is a U23 player, and I don't necessarily prioritize U23 that week, like my other U23s aren't that great, I am absolutely guilty of making the mistake of forcing that card into U23 because I'm like, oh, well, he's U23. I don't want to play him in something else. I see you play Donnarumma in Rare Pro, All-Star Rare Pro. You obviously have enough other cards that it was okay with Diogo Costa and Van de Voort in Rare Pro and Rare. But like, do you ever find a situation where you like that, where you're like, oh, this guy is U23. I really should put him in All-Star because he's one of my better cards this week. But it, like, obviously you're not playing him in U23 then.
I used to, but now I've sort of turned into, I'm running my best cards together regardless of where they are. Unless it's like a massive detriment, then I won't do it. But like, that's not super frequently that has happened. So like, we can go through these lineups. I'll tell you what my decision points were on them. So first lineup I looked at was U23 or All-Star Rare Pro. So I was going to run Gil, Messi, Neymar. I think Neymar is definitely the captain over Gil. So like that wasn't much of a, or over Messi right now. Neymar, in my opinion, is the best player on the platform if he's healthy, which currently he is, knock on wood. So then I went to defender, and I considered about 8 guys. So I considered Lukumi, but Lukumi I didn't want to play on the road. I considered Robin Proper, and if I played Robin Proper, goaltender would have been Unnerstall. But Proper was just coming back from injury, and they play qualifiers this week, so I wasn't sure if he'd be in. So I didn't want to do that. Then I had Papi Gilaboji, who had a really favorable matchup, especially for himself. And if you look at him, he actually has spike games. Like he can hit 100 some of the time. The issue is he's on one of the worst teams in Turkey, so he doesn't hit it that often. But as you can see, he has some major spike games, and it's not very often where he's a favorite at home, much less he was a pretty large favorite. And then I had a few other options as well, but there was questions about most of the guys that I had, and they just didn't make sense. And then the goalie situation I had as a discussion point was whether or not I played Donnarumma here or one of the stacks. Like I said, there was like 3 or 4 stack options here to run Gilaboji or like Understall proper. So like goalie was dependent on that, or I was going to run Mike Mignon here. Like those were like the options that I were running through here. Then when you moved over to U23 Rare Pro, it was pretty much going to be Donnarumma or
Costa.
I wasn't sure which one it was going to be. And then it was definitely going to be Timber, Anthony, and Jota. Right now, I'm not sure if Timber will remain a slam dunk in U23 Rare Pro.
Looking ugly.
I still think I will probably do it for maybe another week and see where we're at. But definitely this was like watching it wasn't his greatest option. And then U23 Rare Pro. So like the issue was I also considered running Pedro Porro super rare over Timber this week, and then running a different midfielder because Trezor was on the road, so it wasn't like it was the best situation per se for Trezor. Like it wasn't bad, but it just also wasn't the best. Yeah. So I was debating, and then I was just like, you know what, Trezor's been so good, I need to just roll him and give him a chance here. So I left Trezor in and kept this line. But there was also a discussion of running Pedro Porro super rare, who was absolutely terrible. He was like, I don't know if you saw,
it was amazingly bad.
He had like minus 45 points from like possessions lost and duels lost. So I'm obviously happy I didn't do that. And then
there's no scoring matrix change that would have helped him this past weekend.
I think he would have been close to Timber if you had the matrix change in. What would his score have been?
He was 27 with the current matrix. Oh, would have gotten up to 34.
Yeah, so like he really wasn't much worse than Timber with the new matrix. Like all of it was like possessions lost and duels lost. It was a disaster.
Yeah, that is impressive. That's impressive.
It was. I watched like half of that game and it was like woof. And then
they won 3-0 too.
They did. Everyone on the team smashed except for him.
Yeah.
So that was like a kind of like weird situation where I was like, I also, so like part of the thought process too in U23 Rare Pro is I did consider an Osseo over Timber, which obviously like I wish I did that, but also this line of wins. Trezor had like a sitter where he just could have sweated someone and was an easy tap in for 2 people into an empty net, and he decided to blast it out of the stadium instead. But if he doesn't do that, I win U23 Rare Pro. So that was unfortunate.
Are there any situations where you play Unerstal without proper, like that you split the goalie defender stack?
So
or is that just like locked in for you?
I have proper, or I have Unerstal rare and super rare. So like typically one of the lineups I won't run with proper because I can't. I don't have two proper. So like it'll depend. Like I'll decide like if he's really, really elite and I decide to run him in U23 or in Gas Pro, like then that's what it is. But if it's not super duper elite, then I will typically not do that. So like those were my decision points in those two. Then going to the Legends, at that point it was Mignon. Like that's who I was going to run there. And then I was always going to run Gil there because Gil Rare was a good spot there. I'm not third though, unfortunately, Laird. I'm fourth. On Sorare, I'm fourth. There's like a bug with someone on SorareData, like Baresi or something. So I'm actually fourth, which unfortunately means I will not get a super rare legend this week. So that definitely makes me sad. And then after that, Challenger. I knew my Challenger Rare Pro would be really strong because I loved the matchup for Sporting. And this is actually like the most depressing lineup I have this weekend. So Pote missed a BCM from an Osseo. He put it off the crossbar. And then Vonnekin missed 2 penalties.
2 pens, yeah.
So like this lineup could have been on like 500 pretty easily. But it wasn't there. So like I knew this lineup was going to be really strong because I had Vonnekin and Gonzalez. So like part of the goaltending discussion and decision making too this week was I knew that I only had one in what I thought was like elite level defending or goaltending matchup in Challenger, and that was Understall.
Yep.
So like I didn't really want to use Understall in the Legends because I wanted to be able to use him here. Same things, like I didn't really want to use him in Gas if I had equivalent options because I knew that that lineup was going to be super duper strong for the weekend, and I would prefer to use him there if I had that opportunity.
So you have an Understall super rare that did you not use it?
I used it somewhere, I think.
Oh, here it is.
One of the D2s. Yeah, my Gas 2 was all actually this lineup I thought was really good. Actor Blue had an elite matchup, Acosta had an elite matchup, Suzuki had an elite matchup, and Understall obviously had an elite matchup. But literally no one did anything, which I love to see this. I love to see like a total bed shitting all around.
Yeah.
Where it's like, hey, you guys all suck. I'm glad you guys are all in one lineup together.
That is definitely a relief point when you look at your lineups. Unfortunately, literally all of my lineups this week.
Like this lineup was like a super good lineup. And it just was a total disaster on the weekend. But I was super pumped about that. And then actually, so here's a good bit of info. So like going to bed, I was going to leave because you were on vacation. So I don't even know how much you saw about the typhoon.
I saw a little. I don't have enough J League guys that I had to worry about it. I think I took Fukumori out, and that's it.
So the other guys I was considering running in Gas were Yamani and my Yamani Super Rare and Jung Sung Rong. But so like what happened is at like 9 to 10 p.m. Eastern, there was news of like the typhoon, and I realized I looked through stuff and like the games that were affected were possibly all the ones that were canceled effectively, plus one. There was another one that was possibly that. And I was like, all right, well, I'm definitely not wasting this in my elite lineups. But I still had like 6 lineups spread where I was using those guys. So I was like, all right, well, that's fine. And then I actually woke up at like 3 a.m. to take a poop. And I was like, all right, well, I need to check to see what's going on. And it was like, this looks not great for all of these games. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to run my Marino stack in Asia 1 because I have no other options. And then I'm going to run my Kawasaki Frontale stack in Asia 3 because I have no other options. And I'm like, if I lose or like if something happens, I lose one lineup. But before I made those moves, I was like 7 lineups, and a couple of them were like priority lineups as well. And then I moved everything out.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So like I removed my risk as much as I could and put it into 2 lineups and to avoid the situations. Because like I saw a lot of people had priority lineups this weekend were like, oh man, I lost because so and so was in the typhoon. It's like when you knew about the typhoon, you like I'm not saying like you had to do it because like you might not have better options and that might be your only choice to do that. But like you also were aware that that was a possibility and you decided that that was the decision to make to leave them in there. So it's hard to deal with like a typhoon and knowing what to do in that situation, right? Like, I mean, it's just a weird spot. But like, we've talked about it numerous times on here. It's like avoiding risk and seeing how to avoid risk. But like, yeah, if you go to my specialist rare, we'll look at that and then we can go to your stuff and see what you had to do. But like, so my specialist rare, like this was,
but you're winning a card in anyway.
Well, so I ran Bigelow because he was in a U40. So I was like, perfect. I'm going to run Bigelow there, although he could have been in a good lineup elsewhere, but I was like, perfect.
Why is he U40?
He's U40 before this weekend. So like next weekend, because he was out and then he had like 2 games that were bad. Yeah. So he'll be out of it now, but like it was a good matchup.
That's an easy call.
And then Bernardeschi didn't sing it. So I was like, done. Perfect. Then, so Blend Rare before this weekend, because like this was the first weekend where obviously he looked like super duper elite right now at center back. Like that looked fantastic. What he was doing this weekend looked great. So I was like, the problem is as you saw, my Gas lineup cannot have a rare defender. So like that's out. And then my Challenger Europe D3 lineup, I was going to run an Osseo because they had like a god matchup and I was already running Pote there. So I was like, I'm going to run an Osseo. So like all of a sudden, those are like the only spots I can use Blend. So I'm just like, well, I might as well just play Blend here because he was 59. Like his average was like 59. And then Octavio was suspended last week. So I'm like, perfect. Octavio has a fantastic matchup too. But again, we just talked about like I had nowhere to put Octavio in gas. I had nowhere to put Octavio in challenger, so I was just like, well, here, I'm going to put him in specialist. And then he didn't start for whatever reason. He just didn't start, and then he came on. He was pretty productive once he came on. But yeah, like he starts, he probably gets 50. I get like third, but I needed at the start of the game 77 to win
from him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh, good old Darwin. Just we'll see him in a month or so. He just got the little red card headbutt.
Oh.
Yep. So he's probably out for the rest for at least like 2 or 3 games minimum.
As a Luis Diaz card holder, I don't know what that means for me.
Nothing. It just means that for Bobby, he's going to be in instead of Nunez.
Yeah. I don't know if it's better or not. Yeah. I mean, that's a pretty absurd lineup, to be honest. But like, I guess your gallery. This is
I have a lot of rares, right? Like I have a lot of rares. My lineup's typically going to be good. I actually did not notice I had the number 69 blend either. Look at that.
You do.
I do. But yeah, so like it's just not a priority lineup, but my lineups end up good. But yeah, so like I would say, so like I think I had 37 lineups this weekend. So of the 37, most of them are typically competitive. Usually, like I definitely have some not good lineups.
Sure.
Or at least like lower end lineups that are just like, this is what's left. A lot of limited stuff, I'm just throwing in some scraps in some of the spots, but
yeah,
I definitely have some not great stuff.
I guess I'll run through mine quickly. I'll admit that like we talked about this, trying to make lineups on vacation is not fun. And so I had like no expectations going into this week. I'm fairly certain that the best card I win is a total luck box, which I will show in a second. But basically, All-Star Rare Pro and U23 Rare Pro are like, it's tough for me to say like I prioritize them the most, but those are the ones I want to win the most. So I put it that way. That's how I like describe my priority. Yeah. So All-Star Rare Pro, I totally tanked by playing Paulo Diaz. And it was one of those that like, it was possible he was going to be back. I like was on vacation. I wasn't going to like, I didn't do enough to decide if he was going to be in. And I was like, oh, I saw things that like, oh, the injury's not that bad. Now I know he's going to be out this midweek too. This card has just been like a killer for me because I keep playing it because I paid a lot for it. And it's like, I'm doing exactly what you shouldn't be doing. And just like prioritizing my lineup and putting just a card that's going to kill it.
Yeah.
I finally got
to be fair, you do that a lot more than you should.
Yeah, I definitely do.
Yeah.
I finally get the Rusnak decisive. Obviously, Carlos Hill is Carlos Hill. But anyway, so I tanked this lineup. And then with U23 Rare Pro. So I go back and so
7th in a limited contest.
What's that?
I said you got 7th in a limited contest.
Yes, I'll get to that. That's my luck box. So I was going back and forth with U23 Rare and U23 Rare Pro. So I have this Lubicic Super Rare, Korean Timber Super Rare, and I was like, I'm going to play those guys. Tug just said I just got a Luis Diaz goal, so that's fun in a lineup that's dead. So Mitchell Van Bergen is a card that I was going to buy for Specialist Limited. And the more research I did into him, and I'm like, this kid's actually pretty good. Mm-hmm. And he takes set pieces, and you don't have that for a forward much. And his rare was like 0.1 something. So I was just like, oh, let me play him. My initial lineup, if you could go back on the lineup builder on SorareData, is this lineup, but with João Felix instead of Van Bergen. And a quick scroll here sees that João Felix dropped an 80, basically a 90 today, which I had in this U23 rare lineup, which this is not like extra rares that I have, but they basically are. Like I went from playing U23 rare to like wanting to play Rare Pro, and therefore I have rare cards to play. So the results-oriented review of this is like, oh, if you just play Van de Voort and João Felix instead of Maximiano, who I don't have to worry about playing next week anyway because he's suspended, and Van Bergen, like I would have been fine. But I still think that like Maximiano had like a good matchup. Van de Voort only gets clean sheets when I don't need them. And so he didn't get one this week when I like could have used it with the rest of this lineup. But anyway, like that, those are basically how I prioritize it. With my gallery, like I don't have a ton of U23 super rares, so I need Lubicic and Lehan Bum to be great, and they were great this week. And I have this Kenny Taylor card; he scores, and then Van Bergen.
He looks really good, by the way. I don't know if you watched the Ajax game, but he looks like I don't know. I just really like watching him and what he does. Like he just looks good to me.
Yeah, and the only reason why I have to think that he's great is because he's basically replacing Sebastian Szymanski for me. So like I played the summer transfers completely wrong in hindsight, completely wrong. So like I kept Vinicius Souza because he was going to PSV, and I sold Szymanski because he was going to Real Sociedad, and instead Szymanski ends up at PSV and Souza goes to Celta Vigo, which is just as, or Espanyol, excuse me, which is just as bad as Real Sociedad in terms of like where you want your U23 players to play. So I'll go to this seventh line. Oh, this is it right here. So this is a total luck box lineup because Veerman like shouldn't have. Veerman wasn't going to start. Like I shouldn't have played
it down too. He was at 100.
Oh, was he?
At the end of the game, he was at 100.
Now, that's outrageous. Whatever correction, having not seen the game, I'm sure is wrong. But like, I don't make any limited lineup expecting to win a star anymore. Like it's so hard to score. I'm at 444 at seventh place, but like, yeah, Veerman wasn't going to start, but I was like, oh, I'll put him in because I had Veerman, I have Enzo, and I'm like, oh, they just played midweek. Like all this midweek stuff feels like it's ruining these guys, and yet they just like keep playing.
I can't believe how much they're playing. Like I'm some of the guys I'm expecting to play. Like so, PSV is actually like rotating stuff a little bit because like PSV is sitting some of their guys. Like Veerman did not start.
Right, he didn't start.
Like, Benfica has ran the same lineup like every game.
Wild.
It's honestly pretty absurd at this point.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I played Enzo somewhere.
I haven't played my Enzo either weekend thus far.
So I prioritized Specialist Limited this week. And I had, what's his name from Vitesse? Howen? Is that how you say his name? The goalie? So I had Howen and I had Van Bergen. And I was like, all right, those are set. I used Neymar as my over 60 because I think that I think a Neymar Limited for my budget, my gallery, and what contest I enter, that's my best card. And I think Specialist Limited is the best limited competition to enter. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to put Neymar there. Like, and then I think Cruz was at 59, and I'm like, I'll play him. And then I just needed someone else. And I had this Rikuto Hirose in a good matchup, and he was like fine. This lineup is fine if Van Bergen doesn't have such a bonehead game.
True. I actually have a Van Bergen rare Laird. I just looked because I thought I had one at one point. I was like, I didn't know if I still had it. So I probably haven't played it in like a year and a half.
Yeah. And frankly, it's a weird situation because he's like a U23 champion Europe player, and like I would never buy somebody like that. But I think he might be like just good enough. And then I found out I can stack him with Juni Ito.
There you go. You're set.
How much am I going to win now, Sean?
I thought Ito actually came in this weekend. I thought he was like out long term. Not that I care, because like I mean, I would imagine I used like Ito like twice all year, maybe, and that's because they have a random game week that's like.
Unfortunately, it was this week. Like they had a great matchup this week and got blown out because of a red.
I mean, like I don't think I could ever play Ito on a weekend. I think the only time I could play Ito would be on like a midweek where they're like somehow
midweeks,
and it's like, oh yeah, I have them. Like France has a midweek, and like I have French cards, and it's like, all right, I can play them.
Except you're just going to lose to all the PSG stacks anyway.
PSG. Well, I have that now. I have the PSG stack now, Laird. Sort of.
Oh man, this Paulo Diaz thing is just.
I was actually talking to Gator Guy about it. I said, I'm like, the amount you've cost yourself from Paulo Diaz is hilarious because first, you took so damn long to buy him when he was the no-brainer card, and he smashed. So like not having him cost you a shitload. Then you finally got him and mushed the shit out of him.
Totally.
And he's just been useless ever since you've had him. Did you be fair? He already paid, and he paid himself off too. Yeah. So like it doesn't even matter.
That was the Wuhan three trees or whatever.
I believe Gernot Trauner had like 100 this weekend.
He did.
Yeah.
Or it was like I think it was a 95.
Yeah, I saw he had put up a huge score this weekend.
It was huge. Yeah, 96. Oh, yeah. Actually, that's new. He's probably even higher. 94. Have you seen Trauner's price recently?
You showed me the graph, but I figured it would maybe bounce. No, it looks terrible. I wonder if someone has his super rare for cheap you want to sell, let me know, because that'd be a good stack.
Yeah, it would be. It would be.
I'm not paying like 4 ETH for his super rare, but like for 1.5, that would probably make. Yeah,
Trauner
like listed like 3.5. I'm not paying 3.5, but if someone I guess someone paid like a while.
Yeah, Trauner's a card. Well, Trauner got me Kenny Taylor.
I gotta decide how good I think Trauner is, because he can really produce. I just don't know if like he's locked in there long term, like what the situation is with him.
I don't know anything about him, other than I don't care anymore because he's gone. Let's attempt to do.
You might have just talked me into buying a Trauner card, by the way.
Go nuts. Go nuts.
Like I very well could walk away having Trauner by like next game week.
Should have bought mine for 1.5 ETH 3 weeks ago.
No, I said super rare, not a rare. Rares right now don't do me tons of good. The way my like lineup construction, it has to be a super rare defender.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. So the lineup reviews we're going to do is our friend Tugford here, and for those listening, Tugford's got a 13 ETH gallery, and looking at his results, he's got 7 lineups this week. All-Star Rare, Rare Pro, Champion Europe Rare, U23 Rare, Underdog Rare, and Underdog Super Rare in the Casual League, which I don't think we need to talk about. I asked him early on, or before we started going, that just a little bit of background. He said he prioritized U23 and then Global Rare, All-Star Rare, and then Rare Pro. He said his initial build for All-Star Rare had Brahim Alaman, but was worried about his ankle because he got a knock during a cup game. So took him out and put in this Georgi Mihailovic card, which seems to work as Mihailovic drew a pen. He said he didn't trust Diego Valdez after halftime benching or Sandoval because of the Peru TV warnings. And for those of you who are unaware, there's apparently some issue that the Peruvian league may not have television coverage, and so there are some worries that Opta may not be able to score them.
By the way, random sub comment based on how weird is it all the stuff we have to factor in? We've already talked about, like, we had to factor in a typhoon, we had to factor in television rights, we have to factor in if Opta will take a nap during the game. Like, it's wild the stuff we have to sort of factor in as players on the site.
It's really silly the things that you end up. You're starting to look at for Sorare Typhoon Twitter accounts so that you can see what the weather is.
Like, first look at this, by the way, also. Like, I'm very curious what his U23 lineup is that he's prioritizing, and Georgie is not in that lineup. So curious.
It's funny you say that. I agree. I will say, I will give Tug credit. He was all over the typhoon information. The guy knows his Japanese geography.
He popped in and he's like, there's going to be a typhoon. I'm like, what games are going to be affected? And then he like disappeared for like an hour. I'm like, Tuggy, I need to know. And then I actually had to go do the research. And then Tuggy shows back up. He's like, these games. I'm like, yeah, I figured that out over the last hour when I did it myself. Because you left.
I didn't do it myself. So thankfully Tug was there. But anyway, he then said he played only one super rare in All-Star Rare Pro because he thought the 2 defenders he played, which we'll get to, would outscore his Hector Herrera super rare. And he didn't trust Matias de los Santos because he seems to rotate every game. Underdog super rare were leftovers. Underdog rare was semi-leftovers, but he had a guy with upside. We'll get to that in a second.
So you're telling me for the All-Star Rare Pro, his like second best super was Hector Herrera is what you're getting at?
It sounds like it, yes. So All-Star Rare Pro. He's at 320 points, and it looks
Tuggy
like
knew about the freaking typhoon.
Tomoki Iwata DNP because of the typhoon, I assume. I don't know this guy at all.
Yes, it's because of the typhoon. So like, all right. So I need to see. So here's the issue from Tuggy. All right. You knew about the typhoon.
All right.
So,
Well, let's not get to that. Let's not get to that because this was his third priority lineup. So let's go to U23 Rare, which was his priority lineup. So he's got Osako, Tapsoba, Nicholas Ezekiel Fernandez, who I don't know, but that doesn't mean much, Santiago Moreno from the Portland Timbers, and Jesus Ferreira, FC Dallas. Moreno gets the captain's armband. Do you know who Nicholas Ezekiel Fernandez is?
Yep, looking him up right now.
So you don't know.
He smashed the last 2 games, which
oh my goodness, he did smash 56 AA against Estudiantes.
But he hasn't really produced that.
Oh wait,
he does it okay. He produces some. All right, let's start out with the obvious here. So he prioritized U23 Rare. Yet his best U23 card is literally not even in the lineup.
I assume you mean Georgi Mihalovic.
Yeah. So already confused because Georgie is better than all of these guys. Santiago Moreno is like the new like fad that people are like in love with him. And I've watched him. I actually think he's really good, but like matrix wise, I just don't think this is going to be a consistent smasher. So anyways, discussing Tuggy's lineups here. I'm not even going to say how big of a favorite was Nicholas Ezekiel Fernandez Tuggy, because that will decide. I'm not playing one of him or Moreno.
Well, he was
playing Georgie.
He said he subbed in Fernandez for Mihalovic.
Yeah, no, I would have played Georgie, but I'm not saying I would have played him over Moreno, or I'm not saying I'd play him over Ezekiel Fernandez, because if Ezekiel Fernandez was a great big favorite, but I'm doubting he was a big favorite. All right, so he was an underdog. So I'm
literally an underdog.
I'm definitely playing.
Who did Mihalovic have? Mihalovic was at Houston.
Yeah,
so they were probably an underdog, but that's like just
it
basic.
It was a pick'em. It was pretty much a pick'em. That game was like a pick'em. I remember that. But like, so I'm playing Georgie over one of those two. I'm definitely not captaining Moreno. I'm captaining Georgie once he's in the lineup. So like that already to me is a confusing move.
I think Ferreira is probably a better captain. No, home against San Jose.
Maybe you could yeah, sure. I mean, you could captain Jesus. The issue is Georgie just like whenever he gets a decisive is going to put up high 70s to 80s. Yeah, whereas like Jesus, you obviously need a couple decisives. But like, yeah, so like for me, I would be captain. You could definitely make a point that you captain him, because if you captain him, he's going to have to score. Like, so you're saying he's going to score, and San Jose is obviously a dumpster fire. But yeah, for me, I would definitely run Georgie here. I would definitely captain either Georgie or Jesus. I would replace either Ezekiel Fernandez or Moreno.
I also want to say
Tapsoba was a huge favorite.
Yeah, I also want to just explain to people that Sean and I know Tuggy. And so if we're speaking a little how some people may think is offensively,
I would say that, to be fair to that comment, I would say the same thing no matter what.
That's true.
So that's why I've said that I think it's a bad idea as an overall.
Okay,
with
that's
Tuggy, it's not as much of a bad idea, but with other people,
he just said in chat he told us to be brutally honest. So here it is.
That was his most priority lineup. So let's go to his next most priority lineup. So now we have a Moreno or Ezekiel, whatever his name was, as a option. Okay, yep. So he obviously wanted to run 2 defenders here, and these guys are quite elite.
Yeah.
So what I would probably do here is I probably would have replaced Moreno instead of Ezekiel, because this lineup is a lot better with, like, you need one of the midfielders. So like I'm just replacing Moreno and putting him here and Georgie in the other lineup. And then I'm captaining probably Sasaki here because he's been so good on the year,
Yeah.
but that would probably be my captain.
Would you not actually
Oh,
use?
actually, maybe I would have captained Reyes because Reyes is on sets and penalties.
Would you not use Fernandez? Are they on the same team? Am I like doing this?
They
right?
are, but you don't have a U23 defender otherwise. Oh, I guess you do.
No,
Because
you do.
Nova. Okay, so yeah, so I would have replaced
Fernandez with Mihalovic.
Georgie and Nicholas Ezekiel Fernandez, put Nicholas Ezekiel Fernandez in All-Star Rare instead of Georgie. And then I would have captained probably Luis Reyes or Sho Sasaki.
Yeah.
Which one of them, I don't know.
I think you probably go Sasaki. Just
he's been so good.
He's been really good. Yeah. Simple as that.
Been so good. So like I would tend to agree with you on that. So all right. So those are like what we would do with the first two lamps. All right, now to the third.
So, but just to go back to being like, oh, we like the results, and we'd be like, oh yeah, just don't play Stuver because he only scored. He had an own goal. That doesn't help. And obviously the Reyes red card you don't see coming. But anyway.
Yeah.
So the next one was Rare Pro, and this is where we were talking about how he played two defenders instead of the Hector Herrera Super Rare. I am going to do a little bit of.
No, there's no defending him here.
No, I'm not defending. I wanted to see what. I don't want to say like, oh yeah, oh my god, he had an assist too.
Yeah, he had, but he's been terrible. He's been not good.
He's been fine.
Yeah, he's been okay. There is no way in hell. Okay, let me rephrase this. Okay, let's rephrase.
As a reminder, we know and like.
Reminder, if there was no Typhoon, this was dumb as shit, and you should be playing Herrera, but maybe not over Awada because Awada's matchup was incredibly favorable. Now that said, I hate Muscat, but Awada's like the one guy that like must have nudes or something on the guy because he does stuff. But like, I probably would have played Awada. I probably would have not played Murillo away at Corinthians when they played in the midweek. So like, and Murillo could rotate out. So I probably would have played Hector Herrera over Murillo. But when there's a freaking Typhoon here and you literally are aware, there is no way you should not be playing him over Awada. Like, it's just a no-brainer. Like, this should have been Hector Herrera instead of Awada. Like I said, if there was no Typhoon, you're playing Hector Herrera Super Rare here. The fact that there was a Typhoon was even more baffling. But like, hey, I will say one of my favorite things in the world, Laird, do you know this? I love when people get punished for being a moron. And Tuggy got properly punished for being a moron here. Unfortunately for Tuggy, like that could have been very valuable to his gallery, bringing in a tier 1 there, but he got punished for it hard. But yeah, like.
So you would have played Herrera Super over one of the defenders.
If there was no Typhoon over Murillo, because there was a Typhoon, I would have done it over Awada. And this is again, like, this is without me knowing his other rares, like, because maybe his other rares I would have liked over some of these other guys as well.
But I'm saying, is there any situation that you would have made a lineup without two super rares?
No, not in this situation. Like, it's just not like Herrera hasn't been that bad to where he was like terrible. I mean, I get so this is what Tuggy's gonna say. So Tuggy, correct me if I'm wrong, but Tuggy's gonna be like, well, there was the All-Star game nonsense in the midweek, so Hector Herrera could have not started, so I didn't want to play him. But like the same issue was there with Murillo, and where like Murillo could have not played because like they played in midweek game. Like he actually
played like an actual game.
Yeah, they played like an actual game. So like, so yeah, but like, yeah, the Typhoon was known. Like Tuggy, obviously we've addressed, knew about the Typhoon. So like, even if you know about the Typhoon and you give it like a 10 to 20% chance of not playing, you remove that risk and you play the card you should have played anyways.
Yeah.
I don't know if he has other supers. Like, does he have other supers and other options? I don't think he has too many superers, but like, I mean, maybe he has another option. Like, he has to have at least a couple other options. All right, let's see what defenders he has. Has Danny Wilson been playing? Because they had a pretty good matchup this weekend. Yeah, so I would consider playing Danny Wilson too. But I probably would have played I would have considered. Regardless, I'm playing a
De
super
Los
rare.
Santos ended up playing.
Yeah, so Santos.
That was an injury worry though.
I definitely see why you don't play De Los Santos, right? Like this guy looks like a just killer of your lineups frequently. So I definitely understand not playing this guy. The other guys, like I would have definitely opted to one of the super rares, whether it be Wilson or whether it be Hector Herrera.
Yeah.
Yeah, who's his forward?
The forward.
Super. He had a super forward. Let's see who his super forward is, because that like maybe that would have. Oh, he played. Wait, is Garza in that lineup?
It's in no, but it's in a later one.
Okay, but you could have played Ugarza. I don't click on him. I'm not familiar with you. Is that the Peru guy? That's the Peru guy. He was worried about playing guys in Peru, right?
He didn't play anyway.
So like he's worried about playing guys in Peru. So like I wouldn't have played him. I think the answer is definitely either Danny Wilson or or Hector Herrera. The answer was never Awada. No.
So I think, let me see what the underdog super rare he said were leftovers, which, that's where Wilson was. It's actually a decent lineup.
Yeah, it was a decent lineup with decent options.
And there's Herrera. Oh man, like, so the way that I look at this is I wonder if Tug like decided not to. It's like you decide not to play Herrera super rare in All-Star Rare Pro, and then you put it in this lineup, in underdog super rare, and then like once it's in a lineup, you're like, all right, that card's gone, and you like stop thinking about like, because now if you take it out, now your underdog super rare lineup is dead because you can't play.
He might not have had another lineup if he ran it like that, so he might have been like the old quantity over quality situation.
Right.
Yeah, which I mean,
think that's exactly what it looks like.
In certain situations, it's fine. Like if it's a marginal situation, you do that, but like not something that like completely destroys the lineup. And like your gas 3 shouldn't be destroyed with the options that you had.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what it is. Like you can give up underdog super rare in order to play.
Yeah.
All-star or underdog rare.
I was actually
man, that's a good lineup.
Yeah, but so like here's the thing: Kenny Roca Santos sucks, and Gator guy was like talking him up like
he was
because he had sets, and I'm like, I don't know, this guy with sets isn't even that good. Like I don't know, like I just see that guy and he's just like super mediocre. There's just better people in underdog rare to play. And I told Gator guy, I'm like, Tuggy must have got screwed because he talks to you and you sold on Kenny Roca Santos before. But Gator guy said that Tuggy was like all about Kenny Roca Santos, and I guess he liked him. Apparently he had a Golazo block. Yeah, I could have got him to 60 because that AA is like Kai Havertz.
Might be worse actually. I mean, it's literally negative 11.
Havertz
terrible. Doesn't do enough to get to negative 11.
No, he doesn't touch the ball enough.
Yeah, exactly. I think this is actually a pretty good lineup.
Everyone else in the lineup except it's fine. Like I would have ran the same lineup. Like with the cards he had, like that's what he would have had to do. And like Roca Santos is at least enough to run in the lineup. But like I was more just saying like he's definitely quite a bit worse than these other guys. I actually Gator guy asked me if I had any underdog guys I like this week, and I actually did not mention Arangues for him because Gator guy has hated on Arangues before. So I just was like, I just didn't say Arangues, but I thought Arangues was a pretty good spot this week because they were really big favorites in that game and he was going to start. So I was like, I liked Arangues as an option. Who did obviously score, but like him scoring's lucky. But I thought his AA would have been better actually.
It was a limited that I want.
Captain, like I definitely captain Bernardeschi, so like that. Did you see Bernardeschi's like forward card was 10 points better than his midfield card this week?
I don't know why you'd ever have his midfield card.
Well, someone screwed up and bought they screwed up and bought the mid thinking it was the forward. I don't think it was Tuggy, it was someone else.
Well, Tuggy's got the forward here, so.
Yeah, they realized that after the fact they bought the mid.
Best of us has done that, Sean. It happens.
I don't think I've done that on a positional thing.
Oh, I've done it like multiple times.
I don't think I've done it. Maybe I have, but I don't think.
Juan Cuadrado definitely, and I'm trying to think of who the other one was. Martin Terrier. however you say.
Yeah, I maybe have. I just can't remember him doing that.
Fripp is saying it was him.
Oh, Fripp's definitely done it. I think it was Fripp. Actually, that is.
Yeah, he said in the chat. He said it was him.
It was definitely Fripp because I think he did it in LA. Or no, he did it right before LA where he did it. But like Fripp literally just sits there, I think, and like I think Fripp like just has an automated tab to Popple Trader's gallery at all times.
Sure.
And just like anytime something hits his gallery, Fripp is like all up in there.
I will say that the benefit, maybe not the benefit, but one of the nice things about buying the wrong position cards is that the platform has plenty of other people who are willing to make the mistake as well.
Yeah.
And so you don't usually get stuck. So
yes,
that helps.
Correct.
Yeah.
That is true.
There's always people like me out there ready to buy the wrong one.
I'm trying to think if I've done it. I don't think I have. I've made mistakes. Like I definitely screwed up a listing price before on someone. I definitely did that back in the day. I haven't done that recently. Knock on wood. I hope I never do that again.
It's hard to do now.
It's hard to, yes, I would agree. It's a lot harder to do that now than it used to be.
Yeah. I don't think we have any others to get through unless we want to discuss the possibility of an FC Köln.
Hasn't Tuggy been talking about like an FC Köln stack? Like he's been raving about it. Is this like the FC Köln stack? This isn't the spot where FC Köln is gonna go out there and produce though. So like I'm not worried.
That's true.
Him. He'll get his random. We saw Cosmo win Champ Europe D1 with the Botcham boys. Like,
yeah.
It's gonna have. You can get a week. You'll get a 1 week where they just smash and you hope everything goes in your favor. So it's just
Leipzig was not going to be it this week.
This week wasn't that week you'd expect. Like you don't expect against like a top. You expect it against like a bottom 5 team at home.
Sure.
Those are like the 5 weeks you want to hope that it happens.
Yeah. And you only really need it to happen once.
I actually won Schwabe last week, 2 weeks ago.
There you go.
Yeah, I didn't hold him very long. He was immediately out of my gallery. I actually, if I win Nico Mantle for the 3rd time in a week or 2 weeks, I'm going to lose my shit.
I mean, for the humor of it, I would prefer if you won it just so that.
Yeah, I mean, it would definitely be humorous. But yeah, at this point, if I won Mantle for the 3rd time in like 10 days, I'm going to be like, what the fuck?
Yeah. He said he also has Mark Uth waiting, and this midweek is the one. Oh, here it is.
Why was Uth not in the lineup this weekend? Shouldn't you always be playing Mark Uth? Like, isn't he like the best player on the team?
Oh man, they are.
No,
it's happening.
No, he didn't play. I don't know why he didn't play. I'm sure.
Tuggy he just bought Kynes. Uth. Oh yeah.
There it is. Tuggy's in. All right. So here's a better question for Tuggy. Tuggy, why did you not just buy the super rares of some of these guys? Because like I understand your gallery is not huge, but like I'm trying to look up how much the super rares of some of these guys went. Like you literally could buy a Florian Kane super rare for 0.439, and you could buy a Huber's. You got to pay a little bit for. Let's check out Jonas Hector. Jonas Hector, you could probably get relatively cheap, not super cheap, but like Uth, you can probably get for underneath. Like you could buy 2 super rares for like. I know you're balling on a budget, but like you could definitely make a little bit more happen there and at least get it into Rare Pro instead of Rare. Because like the problem is like if like Köln smash in D3 or I'm sorry in D4, you're gonna get like a tier 2, like at most. Like that's like your ceiling of like when Köln smashes. Whereas like if they smash you're in Rare Pro, like you could totally get a star out of that.
Uth Super went today for 0.54.
Yeah, so like you could have bought a Kane Super and an Uth Super for like under an ETH combined. And so you said you buy it for midweeks and midweeks gas. The problem is if you're buying it for midweeks gas, if you can run it in Rare Pro, like you're going to have a way better production out of it than you will elsewhere. And like obviously like I'm not saying you should have tons of supers, but like we already saw like you definitely could start these guys in super department too.
There are a few things I enjoy more on the platform than seeing somebody win an auction when their Sorare name literally includes for sale all gallery while still buying more cards.
I won a Mark McKenzie super last night at 3 a.m. I actually
you're not selling your gallery.
I'm not. That's true. I'm not selling my gallery. Unless someone wants to give me like 600 ETH, I'm out. So buyers, I'll even give free consultation.
It's out there. How about that?
It is. But yeah, so I put in a bit of like 0.45 on Mackenzie before bed. I contemplated waking up to bid on it a little bit more, but I was like, you know what? I just don't want to do that because I was like, that sounds terrible. But I ended up winning it at 0.45, which I was like, that feels pretty good because Lukumi's dead now.
Yeah.
So like now I can have a U23 super defender with Vandivore, and their super defenders can actually produce occasionally.
Mm-hmm.
Like they definitely have the ability to produce on occasion.
Sure. Sure.
So.
All right. I think that should be enough for this one. I hope that was helpful for people other than Tuggy. Both when Sean went through his lineups, I went through mine, and we went through his. But I think it also probably helps explain why doing this every week is probably the way to do it, and why it might not be helpful for everybody, because everybody's galleries are different, and it's difficult to like know everybody's gallery so well that you can be helpful every week. But ideally, some of the lessons that we discussed are helpful for everybody. So yeah, hopefully that was helpful. If everybody who has been watching could please hit the like button, that's always appreciated. You can also rate and review anywhere you listen to the podcast. If you're listening on Spotify, just a reminder that there is video there, so you can pull up the video anytime you guys are watching and we pull something up on the screen. We're going to have 2 more shows this week. Solar Andrews will be one of them. That's moving to later in the week. And we're also going to do an AMA with Maxime, which we'll announce shortly, even though I just sort of announced it. But we're going to have that coming up. Both of those are actually going to be on Thursday. So we took last week off, and we're making it up with an extra show this week. So hopefully that helps everybody with their podcast feed. So Sean, thank you for that, and good luck this week.